This video is about the menu cost model. I am going to consider two cases of the model, and the difference is the shape of the labor supply curve. And this model is going to tell us about what happens when the prices are sticky versus when the prices are flexible. So we have 6 equations here. The first is the profit function, this is the production function, the utility function, the budget constraint, this is the demand curve, and finally we have the aggregate demand. So we are going to consider the flexible price equilibrium, and we are going to consider the normal labor supply curve, which is derived from the consumer's utility maximization problem. So firstly, we substitute the production function into the profit function and also the demand function. So we do our profit maximization problem, and we will get to our profit maximization condition, which is characterized by this markup pricing. So we keep the profit function here because we are going to use it later. And then this is the markup pricing rule, which we can see that the monopolists charge a price that is higher than the real wage. And in equilibrium, all firms set the same price, and we are going to have that the real wage is this function, and since we are paid a wage that is lower than the perfect competition case, then we are going to have some unemployment. And then we have the consumer problem, from which we derive the labor supply curve, and we can derive the equilibrium by using labor demand equals labor supply. And then we consider the case where every firm chooses the same production, where we will going to have the same output and labor employment, and then we can have the equilibrium production from our production technology function. And then we are going to have our sticky price case where P is fixed. And what the firms will do is that they no longer demand labor using this labor demand, and instead their labor demand is constrained by the monetary policy. And so this is the effective labor demand. So again, the equilibrium is characterized by labor demand equals labor supply. And we will have our equilibrium equation between real money balance and real wage. And then we are going to consider the menu cost model, which says that the Nash equilibrium here is the sticky price equilibrium if the profits from adjusting the profit or prices is minus the profit of fixing prices is going to be smaller than our menu cost Z. And in that case, it means that it's not worthwhile to change prices because the gain in profit is not sufficiently big. And then we consider the case where firms are not adjusting the price. So remember this equation that is the profit function. Or we are still considering the sticky price case. So we have this relationship between M over P and W over P. And then we have our the aggregate demand function. So we substitute that and that into the profit function using the relationship between W over P and M over P, and we will get to this. And when we are considering instead the case where firms adjust their price, then the profit from that will still be derived from this profit function, but when they are adjusting their price, they don't have to charge PI equals P, and they use this markup rule instead, and they're going to get this. And then we consider a second case of labor supply curve, which is proposed by Bo and Romer. And first we consider the flexible price equilibrium. Again, we are setting effective labor demand is equal to labor supply. The labor demand equals labor supply, and we are going to get this. And in the sticky price equilibrium, labor supply is set equal to the effective labor demand, and we will get our relationship between W and P. And in this case, if firms are fixing their price, they are going to set PI equals P, and using the relationship between M over P and W over P, we are going to get this. And finally, if firms are adjusting their price and using the markup rule, they will get this as the profit. So we can consider a case where we have a decline in productivity A and a change in the aggregate demand of M. So we will consider the case where we have flexible price. So whether we are in the first case or in the second case, we will see that the flexible price equilibrium is not affected by aggregate demand because it has no real effect, which is like the Fisher rule, which says the growth of price is the same as the growth of money supply. And then we are going to have a reduction in real wage, which is induced by the decline in productivity due to the lower labor demand, which reduces employment and also the output more than proportionally. But in the case where we have sticky price, instead we can see from the labor market equation here that a decline in the productivity is going to raise effective labor demand and also real wage. But then the drop in aggregate demand M will reduce effective labor demand and thus real wage.